When you think of the beast, 666, and even Antichrist, you have to move away from the way Hollywood portrays them, and allow the Bible to speak for itself. The beast and Antichrist are not some ugly-looking monsters wearing an upside-down cross. Evil does not have to look evil to be evil. That's what makes evil so deceptive. When understanding the spiritual realm, you need to exercise your senses to be able to discern between good and evil, not right and wrong. Good and evil are spiritual. Hebrews 5 verse 14. Solid food belongs to those who are of full age, that is, those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. There is a lot of information and historical facts in this study. The reason for this is because just like the many prophecies that God gave us to help us identify Christ and not be deceived, He has also given us many prophecies to help us identify Antichrist. To understand what the Bible means when it uses the word beast, you have to go to the book of Daniel, because it's there that you will learn that a beast and a horn are metaphors for a king or a kingdom. Daniel 7 verse 23, He gave me this explanation. The fourth beast is a fourth kingdom that will appear on earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it. A beast is a metaphor for a kingdom. In the same way, a horn is a metaphor for a king and his kingdom. Daniel 7 verse 24, the 10 horns are 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom. The book of Daniel and the book of Revelation are sister books. If you find something in Revelation that you don't understand, you'll find the answer in Daniel. The book of Daniel gives us a very powerful prophecy of 4 world kingdoms rising and falling hundreds of years before they even existed. The prophecy starts with the kingdom of Babylon, as a lion with wings. They even found some winged lions on some walls in Babylon during an archaeological discovery. The prophecy then moves forward in history to the next kingdom being Medo-Persia as a bear, Greece as a leopard, and a fourth beast that is very strong, with iron teeth as pagan Rome. Daniel 7 verses 4 to 7. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And suddenly another beast, a second, like a bear. It was raised up on one side, and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said thus to it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I looked, and there was another, like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. All these world kingdoms can be found in our high school history books and encyclopedias. The fourth beast is pagan Rome. It had iron teeth, so it was very strong. Rome was very powerful because it was the first kingdom that invented iron and used it to make weapons to conquer and rule the then known world. Rome was a cruel and brutal kingdom. It would feed people to lions and watch for entertainment. Rome was the first to use the cruel cross as a form of punishment. Pagan Rome was the dreadful fourth beast kingdom of Daniel's prophecy, until she fell and divided into 10 kingdoms in 476 AD. In 476 CE, Romulus, the last of the Roman emperors in the West, was overthrown by the Germanic leader Odoacer, who became the first barbarian to rule in Rome. The order that the Roman Empire had brought to Western Europe for 1,000 years was no more. ushistory.org. The 10 kingdoms of fallen Rome are portrayed by the 10 horns in Daniel. Daniel 7 verse 7, After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Pagan Rome was different from all the other kingdoms that came before it. It's different because out of it comes a little horn, or a little kingdom. It's this little horn that becomes the beast of Revelation that we are warned not to worship. Daniel 7 verse 8. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there, in this horn, were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. When Daniel said, I was considering the horns, he was referring to the 10 kingdoms of divided Rome. Out from the middle of these 10 horns comes a little horn or a little kingdom. The little horn that comes up from the middle of pagan Rome is Holy Rome. This kingdom is the Vatican. The Vatican is a little kingdom because it's only 110 acres. Vatican City-State is an independent state located within the city of Rome. With an area of 110 acres and a population of about 1,000, it is the smallest state in the world. Holy Rome is a kingdom, but it's a different kind of kingdom because it's both political and religious, so its ruler is both a king and a pope. This is why you see the pope at UN meetings with other world leaders, because the pope is king of his kingdom. The pope is the man of sin who sits in the temple of God showing himself that he is God. 2 Thessalonians 2 verses 1-4. Now concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered to him, we ask you, brothers, not to be easily upset in mind or troubled, either by a spirit or by a message or by a letter as if from us, alleging that the day of the Lord has already come. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way. For that day will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition. He opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. The Pope is of so great dignity and so exalted that he is not a mere man. He is, as it were, God on earth, sole sovereign of the faithful of Christ, chief of kings, having plenitude of power. Lucius Ferraris, Prompta Bibliotheca. Notice how God's throne has 2 cherubim angels positioned on each side. Isaiah 37 verse 16. Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, enthroned between the cherubim, you alone are God over all the kingdoms of the earth. Since the Pope is portrayed as God, he too sits on his throne between 2 angels. The man of sin is also called the son of perdition. This is a very important identity clue because some people believe the man of sin, or Antichrist, is someone outside the church. Someone such as Hitler or Osama bin Laden. Judas was the only other person who was given the title, Son of Perdition, and we know he was someone within the inner circle. When Messiah said, "One of you will betray me," the disciples didn't even know who Messiah was referring to. This means the Son of Perdition will be accepted by God's people as part of the fold, not some evil-looking monster easily identified. The Pope is the man of sin who speaks pompous words against God and changes God's times and law. Daniel 9 verses 24-25, the 10 horns are 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom. And another shall rise after them. He shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the saints of the Most High, and shall intend to change times and law. The Pope has the power to change times, to abrogate laws, and to dispense with all things, even the precepts of Christ. The Pope has the authority, and often exercised it, to dispense with the command of Christ. The Pope can modify divine law. Ferrari's Ecclesiastical Dictionary. Sunday is our mark of authority, the Church is above the Bible, and this transference of Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. These are surely pompous words. Daniel describes the little horn as a persecuting kingdom that subdued 3 kings. When the papacy was coming into power, it started changing God's times and law, and anyone who resisted these changes were called a heretic and were destroyed. He is a heretic who does not believe what the Roman hierarchy teaches. A heretic merits the pains of fire. By the gospel, the canons, civil law, and custom, heretics must be burned. 148-169. In the earlier years of the papacy, as it was rising to power, it destroyed 3 kingdoms, the Heruli, Ostrogoth, and Vandals. Over the years, the Vatican continued its religious reign of terror, imprisoning, torturing, and killing heretics using the Inquisitions and Crusades. The Inquisition was a powerful office set up within the Catholic Church to root out and punish heresy throughout Europe and the Americas. History.com. Daniel's prophecy describes the four world kingdoms as Babylon being the lion, Medo-Persia as the bear, Greece as the leopard, and pagan Rome has the powerful beast with iron teeth and 10 horns. The little horn that comes up from the middle of pagan Rome is Holy Rome. Holy Rome is different than all the other kingdoms because it's both a church and a state. These four kingdoms become one composite beast kingdom in Revelation 13. This is the kingdom that God tells us not to worship. Notice how it's the dragon who is giving this kingdom its throne, power, and great authority. Revelation 13 verses 1-4. Then I stood on the sand of the sea. And I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. This beast comes out of the sea. The sea, or waters, is a metaphor for where the harlot sits. It's a place on earth that has many nations with people who speak different languages. Revelation 17 verse 15, Then the angel said to me, The waters you saw, where the harlot sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. The Vatican sits in Rome, and Rome is in Europe. Europe is a place with many nations with people who speak different languages. This beast that comes out of the sea is a metaphor for a composite kingdom. This is because it's made up of all the different beast kingdoms that came before it. This is because it adapted all the pagan beliefs and practices from those kingdoms and made them into one world kingdom known today as the Roman Catholic Church. This is the same beast that God tells us not to worship or receive its mark. Revelation 14 verses 9-10, Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast or its image, and receives its mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God. Holy Rome is both the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican as the state. It has a man at its head called the Pope. He changed God's times and law when he adopted the Babylonian system of sun worship. He did this when he changed God's seventh-day Sabbath to Sunday, Passover to Good Friday, and the Feast of First Fruits to Easter Sunday. He even changed the 10 Commandments which were written in unchangeable stone as part of the Mount Sinai covenant. Notice how in God's version the second commandment tells us not to make idols or images. The fourth commandment tells us to remember to keep the Sabbath holy, and the 10th commandment tells us not to covet. Now look at the Pope's version. The second commandment should say, Make no idols or images, but it was completely removed, so now they have all kinds of idols and statues, which is forbidden by God. The fourth commandment had to be moved up to the third because they removed the second commandment. Now that only leaves 9 commandments, so he made 2 commandments out of the 10th, so there would still be 10 commandments. The 10th commandment should say, Do not covet, and the 9th should say, Do not bear false witness. The Roman Catholic Church is a Babylonian system of worship that is rooted in pagan sun worship and idolatry. Notice the statue in the Vatican. Notice the lady in the lower right corner. It looks like she is holding a baby, but with a closer look we don't find a baby. We find she is cradling the sun in her arms. He even declares December 25th as the birthday of Messiah. December 25th is the birthday of the sun god, not Messiah. December 25th was observed as the birthday of the sun as part of the ancient Roman festival called Saturnalia. It was also the date of the birthday of the pagan sun god Mithras, sometimes also spelled Mitra. The Catholic Encyclopedia. The Easter or Ishtar symbolism of the Sunday resurrection of the spring fertility cult, Easter, the Anglo-Saxon form of Ishtar, is a pagan system of worship that first penetrated Christianity in the 2nd century. The symbolism stems from the death of Thomas on Friday and his resurrection on Sunday. The 40 days of Lent were picked as one day for each year of his life since he died at age 40. The rest of the traditions of Easter were Christianized into the story of the death and resurrection of Yeshua the Messiah. Wikibooks and Wikipedia. Everything about the beast system of worship is rooted in Babylonian sun worship. Notice baby Thomas. Notice the hand gesture and the ball. Now look at the Catholic Jesus. It's the same person, only all grown up. God has been fighting this false system of worship for thousands of years. Ezekiel 8 verses 13 to 16, and he said to me, "Turn again, and you will see greater abominations that they are doing." So he brought me to the door of the north gate of the Lord's house, and to my dismay, women were sitting there weeping for Thomas. Then he said to me, "Have you seen this, O Son of Man? Turn again, you will see greater abominations than these." So he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and there, at the door of the temple of the Lord between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord and their faces toward the east, and they were worshipping the sun toward the east. Everything that provoked God to anger was adopted by the beast kingdom, even baking cakes to the Queen of Heaven. Notice the buns that are baked on Easter Sunday, and how they call Mary the Queen of Heaven. This is all rooted in Babylonian sun worship. Jeremiah 7 verse 18, "The children gather wood, the fathers light the fire, and the women knead the dough and make cakes to offer to the Queen of Heaven. They pour out drink offerings to other gods to arouse my anger." The Catholic Church calls Sunday the Lord's Day because they changed the Sabbath to Sunday with no support from the Bible. They did this because Sunday worship is also rooted in Babylonian sun worship. In Roman culture, Sunday was the day of the sun god. In paganism, the sun was a source of life, giving warmth and illumination to mankind. Sunday, Wikipedia. Notice the sun halo on the head of the sun god. Now notice how the Catholic Church and pagan religions use the same sun halo. Notice the pagan solar wheel and how it too is used in pagan religions. Now look at this. The Vatican has the largest solar wheel in the world. And look what's right in the middle. It's an obelisk which was taken from the sun temple of Ra. This whole system of worship is rooted in Babylon. This is why God is calling his people to come out of Babylon or be punished with her. Revelation 18 verse 4, "Then I heard another voice calling from heaven, 'Come out of Babylon, my people. Do not take part in her sins, or you will be punished with her.'" Since the Pope is the leader of spiritual Babylon, he has the same kingly garment as the leader of literal Babylon. Notice the hat tail and the cross shape on the collar, and the sun symbol of the sleeve cuff of the Babylonian leader. Now notice the Pope wearing the same hat tail, cross symbol and sun symbol on his cuff sleeve. This is because he is the leader of spiritual Babylon. The Bible uses a woman as a metaphor for a church. The bride of Christ is the pure virgin because she keeps the commandments of God. The harlot is the church that is impure because she does not keep the commandments of God because of her Babylonian system of worship. The Vatican is the harlot woman who sits on 7 hills. Revelation 17 verse 9. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. It is within the city of Rome, called the City of 7 Hills, that the entire area of Vatican State proper is now confined. Catholic Encyclopedia. The Roman Catholic Church is not only called the harlot, she is also called the mother of harlots. She is called this because out of her came many denominations that have the same system of Babylonian sun worship, with Sunday as the Lord's Day, Good Friday, Easter, and Christmas. The Roman Catholic Church is called Mystery Babylon because of her Babylonian system of sun worship. She is said to be sitting on the beast. This is because she has control over her kingdom, the Vatican. She is dressed in red and purple with a golden cup in her hand that is full of abominations. Revelation 17 verses 3 to 5. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. And I saw a woman sitting on a red beast which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and red, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Is the Roman Catholic Church dressed in purple and red? Yes, she is. Notice the red and purple attire of the Roman Catholic Church. Does she have a golden cup in her hand? Yes, she does. She uses the golden cup for their Catholic Mass. Why does God say the cup is full of abominations? Because through the wafer, they claim to have the divine power to create God. They actually believe they become the creator of the Creator. The power of the priest is the power of the divine person, for the transubstantiation of the bread requires as much power as the creation of the world. Thus the priest may be called the creator of the Creator. The dignity of the priesthood, page 33. They also say that God has to obey the priest and come down from heaven into the hands of the priest, even if the priest is God's enemy. These are surely pompous words. We find in obedience to the words of his priest hoc est corpus meum, God himself descends on the altar, that he comes whenever they call him, and as often as they call him, and places himself in their hands, even though they should be his enemies. And after having come, he remains, entirely at their disposal. They move him as they please, from one place to another. They may, if they wish, shut him up in the tabernacle, expose him on the altar, or carry him outside the church. They may, if they choose, eat his flesh, and give him for the food of others. Oh, how great is their power! The Dignity of the Priesthood by Ligori, page 26-27. The papacy is Antichrist. The word Antichrist is a compound word made up of 2 words, anti and Christ. The word anti means against Christ or instead of Christ. The papacy has put itself in place of Christ. The Pope is the supreme judge of the law of the land. He is the vicegerent, replacement, of Christ, who is not only a priest forever, but also King of kings and Lord of lords. La Sevilla Católica, March 18, 1871. With the Pope's triple crown he declares himself King of heaven, earth, and under the earth. Hence the Pope is crowned with a triple crown, as King of heaven and of earth and of the lower regions. Lucius Ferraris, Prompta Bibliotheca, Volume 6, pages 438, 442. One of the titles the Pope has is the Latin term, Vicarius Filii Dei, which means Vicar of the Son of God. The word vicar is the Latin word substitute, which means in place of. This is the Pope's authoritative name. Revelation tells us that if we calculate the name it will add up to 666. Revelation 13 verses 17 to 19. No one may buy or sell except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. When you calculate the Roman numerals in the name it means you add it up. When you add the Roman numerals in the name Vicarius Filii Dei it equals 666. God warns us not to worship the beast or its image. He also warns us not to have the mark of the beast on our forehead or our hand. Revelation 14 verses 9 to 10. Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast or his image, and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God. We know the beast is a kingdom, and the kingdom in Revelation is the Vatican with its pope. The image of the beast is not the beast, but it looks just like it. This is because the image of the beast has the same Babylonian system of worship. But since Saturday, not Sunday, is specified in the Bible, isn't it curious that non-Catholics who profess to take their religion directly from the Bible and not the Church, observe Sunday instead of Saturday? Yes, of course, it is inconsistent. But this change was made about 15 centuries before Protestantism was born, and by that time the custom was universally observed. They have continued the custom, even though it rests upon the authority of the Catholic Church and not upon an explicit text in the Bible. That observance remains as a reminder of the Mother Church from which the non-Catholic sects broke away, like a boy running away from home, but still carrying in his pocket a picture of his mother or a lock of her hair. The faith of millions. Practically everything Protestants regard as essential or important they have received from the Catholic Church. The Protestant mind does not seem to realize that in accepting the Bible and observing the Sunday, in keeping Christmas and Easter, they are accepting the authority of the spokesman for the Church, the Pope. Our Sunday Visitor, February 5, 1950. The Vatican with its papacy is the beast. All the denominations that came from her, through the Protestant Reformation, make up the image of the beast. This is because they kept the same doctrines that were created by the papacy, which include Sunday as the Lord's Day, Good Friday, Easter, and Christmas, just to name a few. If you have the mark of the beast on your hand, it means you're not worshipping the beast, but you are doing what the beast says. If you have the mark on your forehead, it means you are actually worshipping the beast. The hand represents your works, and the forehead is the part of the brain where worship takes place and moral values are formulated. Damage to the area of the brain behind the eyes transforms the way people make moral judgments. If I went to a Catholic church and said Mary was a sinner in need of salvation or that the Pope was not infallible, they would kick me out. This is because they actually worship the beast, so they have the mark on their forehead. If I went to a Baptist church and said Mary was a sinner in need of salvation or that the Pope was not infallible, they would say, Amen. But if I said, Sunday is not the Lord's Day, they would kick me out. That's because they don't worship the Catholic Church, but they do what the Church says with Sunday worship, Christmas, Easter, and Good Friday, just to name a few. When you do the same things the beast does, it means you have the mark on your hand. The mark of the beast is spiritual, not a literal mark or a computer chip. The mark has to do with who we worship and what we're doing. We know it's spiritual because we want the Father and Son's name written on our forehead, not the beast's. Revelation 14 verse 1. Then I looked and saw the Lamb standing on Mount Zion. There were 144,000 people with him. These people had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. Could a computer chip or a literal mark be used? Yes. I believe it could be used because these forehead marks are spiritual. This means the leaders of the New World Order would need something to identify those who don't have the Father and Son's name written on their forehead. If you don't have their mark or their chip, they won't let you buy or sell. This means someone will have to ask you what you believe before they give you the chip or the mark. The Vatican is definitely the beast that we are called not to worship or receive its mark, and the papacy is Antichrist. Even Martin Luther, who was the founder of the Protestant Reformation, believed the Pope was Antichrist. I feel much freer now that I am certain the Pope is Antichrist. The Pope is the spokesman for the serpent. Because it's the serpent who gives the Pope his power, his throne, and great authority. When the Pope made all the changes to God's times and law, he was speaking on behalf of the serpent. He even speaks right from the serpent's mouth. The serpent made all these changes to God's times and law through the papacy. He's doing this because he wants to be worshipped like the Most High. Isaiah 14 verses 12 to 14. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations! For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, I will be like the Most High. The serpent knows that the foundation of true worship is obedience to God. Matthew 15 verse 9. Their worship is worthless, for they teach their man-made laws instead of those from God. He even tried to get Messiah to worship him. Matthew 4 verses 8 to 10. Again the devil took him to a very high mountain, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world, and their splendor. All this I will give you, he said, if you will bow down and worship me. Jesus said to him, Away from me, Satan! For it is written, worship the Lord your God, and serve him only. The Roman Catholic Church is not only the great harlot of Revelation, she is also the mother of harlots, which means all the denominations that have her same Babylonian system of sun worship are her daughters. Revelation 17 verse 5, and on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. The Vatican is the beast of Revelation, and the papacy is Antichrist. The Pope's throne, with its power and great authority, was all given to him by the serpent. Revelation 13 verse 2, the dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. When we worship the beast by following the Catholic Church, we are actually worshiping the serpent through the beast. Revelation 13 verse 4, so they worshiped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? When the Pope made all the changes to God's times and law, he was speaking for the serpent, right from the serpent's mouth. Notice how Audience Hall in the Vatican is the serpent's head. This is the head of the serpent that Messiah will crush when he comes back. Genesis 3 verses 14 to 15, so the Lord God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. Messiah crushes the serpent's head when he comes to set up his own kingdom. Daniel 2 verse 44. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. You don't want to be part of the serpent's kingdom when Messiah returns. These are the same kingdoms that Satan offered to Jesus if he would bow down and worship him. Today is the day to come out of Babylon, the kingdom of Satan. Colossians 1 verse 13, God rescued us from the kingdom of Satan and brought us into the kingdom of his dear Son. When you come out of Satan's kingdom to follow Christ, according to his way, the Torah and the prophets will be your foundation for truth. Acts 24 verse 14, I admit that I worship the God of our ancestors as a follower of the way, which they call a cult. I believe everything that is in accordance with the Torah and that is written in the prophets. Let's worship the one true God of Israel by following the Torah and the prophets, as defined by Messiah. Then we can be sure we are not worshiping the beast. Following Messiah is not hard, it's just different. Have a blessed and happy Sabbath.